Alright, in the continuing saga here, what I did is I hooked up a Amphenol AT connector here directly to the pump. That's the wire that goes to the neck too. And with this connected up to, my battery terminals, hooked up this reversing motor switch. And you can see I've got my Bubble Purge Pro hooked up to a bottle here. No leaks. And then lines run back to both sides of the motor. So I can kind of just click this switch back and forth and move the motor. That's about the cycle time. Should probably time this, but I forget what the specs said, but that seems reasonable. Back and forth. So 14 seconds. And then I also ran the switch back and forth, opposing it with the helm, and didn't really get much out of it. I don't really have any air in the system to begin with. So when I was running the motor, let's set it this, I'll show you what I was doing. Kind of hard to do this three-handed, but I was kind of holding the motor back, just kind of spinning the wheels to prevent it from turning, with the bleed valve shut on the motor. And that was allowing me to check any kind of air out of the system. I did get a couple super tiny bubbles, but to be honest, I'm not sure exactly where they were from, but it was extremely minor. It wasn't any big amount of bubbles. I've got brand new fluid in this thing. I've done this like 6 or 7 times now. The motor operates great with my steering, so I don't think it's anything to do with that. And by checking the reversing switch on the motor and checking the cycle time, I think I can say that the drive works well. I really don't see any other problems that are obvious to me. The AP44 was brand new. The HS60 I did get used, but it was the only place I could find one. The Evo 3 is brand new. The NAC I had left over from another project. But, it seems to drive it fine. So I think I can eliminate bubbles at the pump and say that I've got good fluid, and the drive and the motor for the drive is working well. All right, one last little test here. Everything is good. I actually had the cylinder valves, the bleed valves cracked one at a time, and you couldn't even see, you almost couldn't even see the fluid moving in here. You had to really sit there, and every once in a while you catch the tiny little glimpse going through there. So, I mean, unless I'm doing this catastrophically wrong, I think that it's pretty tough to think there's any air in the system. Further, and now I'm running full voltage to this. I don't have a rheostat on my switch here, but it's pretty responsive. I mean, there's no hesitation, and I would imagine that the NAC would obviously be able to apply a lower voltage to control the motor speed on this motor. But at full speed, I don't see any indication that, like, the pump's cavitating. I don't hear it. It goes all the way over to the lock and starts building pressure. It is a little slower going over to this way, but overall I'd say it's pretty consistent. And there's no way that this shouldn't be able to drive this. In fact, I would be surprised if the pump actually drove the motor this quickly, unless you're doing like a U-turn or something. I mean, it should be much more gradual. All right, so pretty happy with my setup here. I think I can prove that the drive and the hydraulics and the motor are in good shape. I have every reason to believe the HS60 is giving good data. It agrees with everything else. It agrees with my mag compass. So since this AP44 was new, I have to think that maybe there's something wrong with the NAC 2, but I don't have another one to test, so I'm kind of stuck with that. But the fact that it does S-turns and drives it both ways, and the fact that it can lower the voltage, especially when you do the initial motor setting set where it says, do you see the motor moving to starboard? It's so slight that sometimes you can't even see it. I mean, you almost have to have two people to do it. But I played with that, and it does put some pretty minute adjustments in there. So, I mean, unless there's something tragically wrong here, I can't understand why this is